So in this video, I'm going to show you how to make no-bake cake batter truffles. For this recipe, you're going to need half a cup of unsalted butter that has been softened, half a cup of sugar, a teaspoon of vanilla, 1.5 cups of flour, 1/8 of a teaspoon of salt, or just like a little dash, a cup of yellow cake mix, 3 tablespoons of milk, 2 tablespoons of sprinkles, and then some melting wafers to cover them. So the first thing you're going to do is, in a large bowl, using a stand mixer is probably the best way to do it, you're going to put your half a cup of butter in there. And you're going to beat it with your half a cup of sugar. So you're going to want to start this out at a slow speed, that way you don't knock anything up out of the bowl. And as it starts to get mixed in a little more, you can turn it up to a faster speed, that way everything is combined thoroughly. So after your butter and sugar are completely mixed together, you're going to want to beat in the vanilla. So all you need is 1 teaspoon of vanilla. And you want to be careful when pouring this. I don't like to pour it over the bowl in case I accidentally spill, then I end up with too much in there. So I just like to pour it over like a measuring cup or something. That way I don't get too much. You can see I just spilled a little bit in the measuring cup. So carefully dump that in. And then turn your mixer back on. You can put it up to about a medium speed just to get this all beat together. And that won't take very long since that's a liquid. Once you have that beat together, you're going to want to add in your cake mix. And so I got Pillsbury yellow cake mix for this. That's what the recipe recommended. And I'm just going to pour it in there instead of scooping it out. It doesn't have to be exact. And don't worry about making a mess. That is the fun part of cooking, is making a mess and getting to clean it up later. That's in there. And we're going to start that out at a low speed again, since that is a powdery substance that you put in there. If you turn it on too high, it's just going to splatter everywhere. While that's mixing in, we're going to measure out our flour. The way that I like to do flour, I like to measure it all out into a bowl at first, and then put it in little by little, because if you add it all in at once, it's just way too much, and it tends to make a mess. I'm just going to turn this down a little. And the cake mix is all nice and in there, so I'm just going to start kind of scooping this in. I'm going to spoon almost all of this in. As I'm doing it, it's mixing up really nice. I'm just going to kind of pour the last bit in. Scoop that down there. And I'm not going to actually measure out our 1/8 of a teaspoon of salt. I'm just going to do a little pinch of it. So once this is all mixed up, it's going to be kind of like a powdery, like really dry substance, because the only liquid you have in there right now is just a little bit of vanilla. I'm going to take this off. I'm actually going to scrape down the sides of this bowl to kind of get everything off. Okay, so once that's all mixed, I'm going to go ahead and leave this off since I'm done adding dry ingredients in. And it calls for about 3 tablespoons of milk. It does say that you can use a little bit more if it's not the correct consistency that you want. You don't want it to be too wet, but you also don't want it to be too dry. You want it to stick together, because we're going to roll these into little balls here in a second. So I'm just going to add in about half of that. Turn it back on. A little bit more. And if you do accidentally add in too much milk, you can always kind of fix that by adding a little bit more flour back in, or a little bit more cake mix, just to kind of even that out. But it looks like we have about the right consistency that we want. If you look at it, it's nice and it's sticky. It's not too dry. It's not too wet. So I'm just going to kind of scrape off this beater here. And then I already have a baking sheet over here prepared. It says to use a baking sheet and some wax paper, but we actually have these nice little baking mats. They stick in there really well. So they're just these silicone baking mats. They are really easy to clean. They're reusable, so you're not, using a bunch of wax paper or plastic or parchment paper and then throwing it away. Just wash them and reuse them. So that is what I'm going to use to roll these out onto, and then I'm going to stick them in the freezer. So I will show you a couple of these. Mix everything up, get it all unstuck off the bottom. And then you're just gonna take a little bit of the dough. You see it's like the perfect consistency that we want. And just pick it up and roll it into a nice little ball. You might have to kind of squeeze it to get it all to stick together. Don't worry about making a mess on here because we have another clean one that we're gonna use after this. We're just gonna roll these out, we're gonna lay them out, and then we're gonna freeze them. For our final step, we are just gonna dip these in our chocolate. I have melted the chocolate in the microwave. I did it in 15-second intervals. That way I didn't burn it and I can just stir it in between. And then these actually sat in the freezer downstairs for 15 minutes. So they are nice and firm. And I'm just gonna use this little fondant stick to pick them up one at a time. And just dip them in here. Kind of let them drip off a little bit. Once you've taken them off, just take some sprinkles, kind of pour over the top of them for decoration, and you're done. So I'm just going to repeat that for the rest of these, and then we'll be all done. Here we have our final product, our no-bake cake batter truffles. Thanks for watching.